Welcome to the More Than Mothering podcast, episode number 9. I'm your host, Crystal Hardstaff from the Gentle Counsellor, where I specialise in perinatal mental health and parenting support. Hello everyone, my name is Crystal Hardstaff from the Gentle Counsellor, and I'm going to be talking today about the lie of aiming to be the perfect parent. There are 3 main things I want to talk about, so we'll get through that in the next couple of minutes. Firstly, I want to talk about why this happens or how this happens, because this is something that I often see with clients who come to me and they're feeling this enormous sense of pressure and overwhelm and feeling like they're always comparing their parenting experience to those around them. And I know that social media plays a big role in that for a lot of us now, because we see everyone's perfectly curated feeds, happy, smiling pictures, and we don't see what really happens behind the screen, right? So we can feel very isolated and feel like no one else is going through what I am. It's just me. So the first point that I was going to talk about today is this often happens when we have that clash between what we thought parenting was going to be like versus the reality of what parenting is like for many of us. So I think it's important for you to kind of question where that expectation has come from. What is the story that you have created in your mind of what you thought a parent or a mother was supposed to be like, how you thought parenting was going to be? For many of us who are wanting to have children, perhaps you were already thinking of this when you were younger. So it can be good to think about what influenced that. It might have been shows you were watching. You know, it could be like the whole Mary Poppins side of things that contributed to how you thought it was going to be. Could have been watching the parental figures in your life. Is it about what they were wearing, how they spoke, or hearing of other people's, like your friends' parents, things like that? What were kind of the rules that you felt a parent had to follow? What should a parent be and what should a parent not be, for example? So when you start to explore that for yourself, it can really be eye-opening to what has contributed to that expectation that you had that is now not met with the reality of what you're experiencing. Another really important point to consider here is how different our society is and different the world that we're living in may be for you. So for a lot of people in the past, they were actually raising children in communities, and we're kind of missing that now. We don't necessarily have people that we're raising our children with. A lot of people don't have family or friends or community around to help them, whether by distance or even by choice, right? So that's having a real negative impact for us as well. And if we lose sight of that, of the facts of how things are different, then it's too easy to internalize that and shift all that blame onto ourselves and believing there's something wrong with us. And the truth is that it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. Parenting is hard. It is definitely hard, and we were meant to do it in community with other people supporting us, and that's something that a lot of people are missing. So if it feels hard, it's because it is. The second point, which kind of leads on from the first point, is the societal pressures that we have and expectations that are put on parents, especially mothers, and also the imbalance of these expectations between mums and dads. We can see that it's vastly different. Mums are expected to stay home with children. Mums are asked when they're coming back to work, or if they're staying home with their kids, when they're judged for no matter what their answer is going to be anyway. And dads don't get asked things like that. So that's one of like the biggest imbalances that we see. We have terms like working mum, but we don't have terms like working dad that we throw around all the time, for example. And we have that societal pressure where we're expected to work like we don't have children, and we're expected to have children like we don't work, because a lot of families, both parents are working, and it's almost impossible to do both, because both are like the equivalent of full-time job. It just, unfortunately, our society doesn't value caretaking as much as it does working in our capitalist society. So that's another point to consider, in where you can shift your focus outside of you and shift it externally to see the way things are set up, how it's set up, even down to the points of not having enough funding for parents, right? Like for parental leave and things like that. All of these things really contribute. And the third point that I wanted to finish with is a lot of us are following gentle parenting. And what I found is that there can be this pressure to get it right all the time. And I really worry that for a lot of people, gentle parenting is actually feeling like perfect parenting. Of course, we want to meet our child's needs. Of course, we want to have the research and understanding of child development and the neuroscience behind it, understanding our child's brain and being trauma informed and things like that. But if you find that you're someone that is following every single page you can, reading every single book you can, listening to every single podcast you can, it can be almost too much in your face where you feel like you're second guessing every single thing that you are doing or saying to your child, which can be worsened with some of those social media pages, for example, putting up scripts of, don't say this, say this. And then you're in those moments in the chaos trying to think, what am I supposed to say? What am I not supposed to say? And you can get flustered and then just fall into the same patterns that you've been trying to break. And then that cycle just continues with the guilt and blame that you feel. And it can feel really hard. Gentle parenting is not meant to be perfect parenting. We are actually meant to make mistakes as parents. We're going to make mistakes as parents because we're human and we make mistakes, and that's actually okay. It's actually good to make mistakes. And I'm sorry if no one's told you that. It's okay to make mistakes. What matters is your intention behind it. Are you intentionally trying to make mistakes? It's very unlikely because if you were doing that, it wouldn't be a mistake per se, right? But it is just the part of the human experience. We're not perfect. We're not going to get it right every single time, and that's okay. In Circle of Security, we talk about being a good enough parent 30% of the time. And we have that information from some research that showed that parents seem to just naturally be attuned to meeting their child's needs about 30% of the time in a good enough way. And that led to a secure attachment. So when we are making mistakes, what matters is what we do after that. So when we talk about rupture and repair and attachment theory, that's where this comes into play. So you want to be fixing your mistakes or helping make mistakes right or doing better the next time. This could look like apologizing to your children if you lost your temper and yelled. That was a mistake. You can apologize for that and then do better next time. It can also involve really important things like self-reflection, reflecting and having that self-awareness of what's going on for you and thinking, okay, what can I do differently next time? Like, why did I yell? Okay, like I was hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. So that makes sense. I need to make sure I'm eating. The house was chaotic because it was in the witching hour and everyone's frustrated and I didn't feel like anyone was listening to me. And I didn't have any support around or whatever it might be. And so when you look at it, you can go, okay, that makes sense why I got to that stage. What could I try differently next time? What's not working, especially in the practical sense of things? Or it could be, you know what, I should have gone and had a couple of minutes to myself to calm down first before I got to that escalation point. So next time I'm going to put myself in my room for a timeout for 5 minutes so that I can then come back to my kids in a more calm way and respond to them in a way I want to for next time. So those are just a couple of the things I think is really important to consider if you feel like you're having this overwhelming sense of pressure in how you are parenting, especially if you're catching yourself comparing yourself to other people, because we're not meant to be perfect parents. My last bit of advice as well is unfollow some of those accounts. If you feel like that pressure is getting too much to you and all your content that you're consuming is on how to be a better parent, it's definitely feeding that perfectionism cycle. So it might be better off to actually take a step back from some of that. Unfollow some of those accounts. Instead of only reading some gentle parenting related books, pick up a book that you can read for joy, that you just want to enjoy, like fantasy or something like that. Try to find a bit more balance so that you're also tending to yourself. I hope that this was insightful for you and gave you some things to reflect on. If you would like a bit more support in your mental health or parenting journey, you can book a counselling session with me. You can just go to my website, thegentlecounsellor.com. Bye. Bye, everyone.